The Switch is on. Battleline podcast had an excellent discussion with the great Joshua Travis this episode, guitarist from Emmure, formerly of Glass Cloud and the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza. And yes, that was an actual band, if you guys are unfamiliar with them. And I do comment on the silliness of the name. But we're going to get right into everything. Before we do, you guys have heard us talk about Fort Scott Munitions, and we are truly so blessed to have such a great ammunition sponsor on board for every show that we do. In these times, a lot of people are stocking up, and, you don't know the right brand to choose. You're seeing a lot of price gouging going on. Not with them, and they always deliver quality product. Although everything is flying off the shelves very quickly, as you could imagine. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike, which you could see on their Instagram. Hunters love Fort Scott. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as direct online through FortScottMunitions.com. That's FortScottMunitions.com. Use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order, only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast, and stuff is flying off the shelves. So go there now, and if you're not buying ammunition, they have some great merchandise as well. Buy a hat. The hats they have are awesome. And I think some of the other stuff like the shirts and hoodies and all that are just flying off the shelves. So I'm telling you, they restock, but there's only so much you can restock with how fast this stuff is going. So if you go there right now, it's going to be different than what you see there tomorrow, literally. So, once again, that's FortScottMunitions.com, promo code Battleline. Don't forget to use our promo code. It's in the description. You'll see right here. That's it. That was quick. Let's get right into it with the guitar master himself, Joshua Travis. Hit it.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline podcast.
Yeah, so excited to have you on, man. It's funny that we've never really crossed paths in real life before because I've known your vocalist, Frankie Palmieri, for, I'm thinking, like nearly a decade now. It's pretty crazy. Time just flies. And yeah, before we even get into anything, it's like crazy news day. And it's so funny because I was talking to you yesterday and I was saying how like I come from the world of like political talk radio. And it for me, honestly, at one point, it got to be way too much because nowadays, like everything is politics 24/7.
Yes,
And it was definitely, say that again?
definitely seems like it is for sure.
Yeah. And it genuinely, it was taking a toll on my mental health. I was like, I just need to be doing other things. And nowadays, though, you cannot get past it. And of course, I mean, like the big news today, like, not unexpectedly by any means. The president has coronavirus.
Right.
It's insane, dude. I know people are going to be pissed off that I'm laughing at it, but it's just, I mean, it's just an insane news cycle right now. Right. Is really what I'm laughing.
It's not like laughing. It's not like you're laughing at him. It's more of so like what it is. It's just like
I'm not, but it was also like the guy didn't take the best precautions. You know, it like
you expect,
kind of expected, yeah. But anyway, I mean, getting into everything. Actually, first thing I was going to say to you, my introduction to you actually was my first gig on radio. I started in radio in 2006 when I was at Hofstra University and was one of the hosts on a show called The Aggressive Edge, which was like a metal show. We got calls from everywhere. I was located in Hempstead, which is where Hofstra University is. The interesting thing, actually, is that one of the places that got the show, like the signal of 88.7, was a jail. So I would get calls from prison all the time of like, play Pantera, play some Metallica. They're like, you're keeping us going here. So I got calls from all over the place. And it wasn't a prison call, but I remember I got one call, and this was 2006. You know, I'm not going to pretend I know every band. And some guy was like, hey, man, could you play some Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza? And I'm like, all right, man. And I fucking just hung up on him because I'm like, this is obviously a prank. And then like 5 minutes later, he's like, no, dude, they're an actual band. Check out Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza. Which really is. I know you weren't in the band at the origin, but it's truly like the silliest fucking name of all time.
Oh, absolutely. There's no, if you either know or are affiliated with, there is no escaping that name. There's just no way. Either you know exactly who that is, or you have no idea who that is. You know.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like if you heard the name, you would assume they were like on the joke band side of things, like that band I Wrestled a Bear Once or Dr. Acula, but like you guys were actually a very serious, like I hate all the genres, but metalcore, whatever you want to call what you did. It was a serious band. I mean, you guys did amazing work.
I think there was a lot about Tony Danza at first that was a lot of jokes. Like there's like you can look at like tons of the song titles and little samples and things that there would have like in random parts of songs, and it was like there was definitely some funny stuff going on with it, but there was also a very serious side at the same time. And then I guess once I kind of took over the writing process, I was just much more serious, I guess. I didn't really have moments for like these little funny, little quirky parts or whatever. I just never really got those in there. But I do think the band did have a lot of funny stuff going on. like early on, I think there was a lot of, weird little funny things in there. Like Danza 2 has it all over the place. There's like, all the skits and stuff. And like, I loved it. And, Jesse, when me and Jesse started working together, it was like, there was just kind of no room for it, really. It took a much more serious turn at that point. So that's kind of how that all broke down.
Yeah, I think maybe I didn't see that part of it because of the fact that like the stuff I really liked is probably Danza 4, the last one you guys ever did, and like I really enjoyed that album. And then skipping ahead, kind of Glass Cloud came about, and I really dug because I'm someone who is definitely like into the very heavy stuff, but with some melodic things thrown in, with some melodic vocals thrown in, and I mean I just thought it was a great project, especially the first album you guys did.
Awesome. Thank you, man. That's really cool. That was a very big right turn for me coming from Danza to doing Glass Cloud. Was kind of like, it took me a second to really, I guess, transition to that. Like, I like to think that any kind of writer and or producer is able to serve and or feed what they need to be doing for any project, no matter what it is, no matter what kind of style it is, whatever the vibe may be. And for whatever reason, going from especially coming from Danza 4 to the beginning of Glass Cloud was like such a interesting transition for me. So it's like I still wanted to have like a bit of an edge to it, but I did want to be able to have a lot more melody and stuff where it wasn't so much technicality, and it was just more so it just felt good, you know. And then not really having to focus on what the hell am I doing right now. You know, that was kind of what I wanted to veer away from after doing it for so long, and even doing it even before Danza, like this is like technical stuff. And it was really cool to be able to get to there. It just took me a while. Like even when I was doing like the first Glass Cloud record, it's just like, I can't help but be doing whatever this is. And it's like, calm down, chill out. We're fine here. You can just go like this. It's okay. You know, you don't have to go like this. I promise.
and for people seeing, because we want a video up, like you just going faster with your hand.
Right. And it's like, it took a while to really get to that point where it was like, okay, now I see where we're going here. But it was definitely fun doing that stuff, though. It was really cool.
I mean, I get it, because also I think Danza got to the point of that was, and I don't really know what ended with you guys, no longer doing what you were doing. Maybe you want to get into it or not, but I think it was really the furthest it could go with that type of music. And Glass Cloud was a lot more palatable to like a mainstream metal audience. They could hear that album, listen to some of the hooks and some of your guitar parts, and it's something I could have heard on Liquid Metal or something, although I don't think it really was. It did get much commercial play.
I don't think so anyways. I don't. Like, I guess at the end of Danza, when we were in the studio doing that record, it was just kind of Jesse had, obviously been there forever, and he was just kind of at the point where he's like, he wanted to have a life. I guess we call it the normal life. And it was something that he really wanted to do. He wanted to get into like, go back to school, start a family, and all these things. And it was like, what are you waiting for? Do it. That's where your head's at. I think that's where you should be. And that was it. It wasn't ever like some kind of bad thing or like some kind of beef or drama or something. It's just like life, man. And I'm back. So that was-
yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. I think to do what you guys do and just knowing guys in bands like yourself, unless you're in a massively successful band, then like Metallica, or I think Trivium, Frankie mentioned on his interview, you have to be kind of nuts to do what you do.
Yeah,
you do.
Because you're not. It's only going to take you so far, man. And I guess it really depends on what kind of lifestyle do you want to live. If you're cool with scraping by, then yeah, you do it forever, I guess. But if you want to have like anything, substantial or, and all the time that it takes, it's just to be even remotely relevant, you have to be out there, constantly. And it's hard to really stay very capable of doing that when you don't really make enough to live, whether it's within your means or not. Like, it's just hard to stay doing that for so long when you really just don't make very much off of that. And now if you've got significant others or you got kids and you're still bringing home like next to nothing, like that's just going to cause problems for the whole dynamic here, And so it's not the easiest thing, but again, if like even like Frankie said, if you're in one of these way more recognized acts, then yeah, you can treat it like that. It's like a legit job at that point. So yeah, you can definitely make it like that.
I'm wondering, like right now, how weird of an adjustment is it? Because Emmure has a brand new album out it's doing great, but I also know at the same point, like, you can't really eat off of hundreds of thousands or millions of plays on YouTube or streams on Spotify, and people don't even realize that. Like, this is another thing I heard Frankie say, not in my interview. I listen to like everything he does because I'm just a super fan of what you guys do, to be completely honest. But I remember him saying, like, the industry has their hand in like my pocket of everything I do, because the whole excuse was basically, all right, you're not getting money for streams on Spotify really, but you're getting exposure. And then you go on tour, people buy t-shirts, and it's like, well, right now there is no tour. So yeah. I have to wonder, are you in like a weird state of like, where do I go from here? Because none of us know what happens next. And although like a Madison Square Garden is going to survive, and you know there will be shows again, I assume at some point, like right by me, a venue I know you guys have played at, Revolution in Amityville, just closed down, and then there's a million venues in every other state you could say the same thing for. Like, they can't survive going a year plus without shows, and they certainly can't survive when things open up being like, well, you have to have social distancing and 1/3 of capacity or something. Like, yeah, especially for the music you do, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's all a mess. Like, it really is. I know people that, I guess being in a band is like their way of life, really. Just imagine having the rug pulled out from under your feet. It's now you start having to try to figure out what to do to survive, basically. And like, I don't think, even since I've been in the band and before, Emmure has never been like some crazy content band. Like, look at all of our guitar playthroughs and bass playthroughs, drum playthroughs, vocal this, like whatever you want to call it. It's like, it's never been that. It's always been a band you go see. You get the record.
True.
And if you really like the record, you really enjoy the record, then you go see the band, and then for whatever reason, for as long as I have known of Emmure, seeing them live was always like, whoa.
Yes. Yeah, and I think there's a ton of people who don't get your band until you do see you guys live.
Yeah.
You guys have always, pre you being in the band to you being in the band now, it's always an amazing live show.
Always, like, definitely. Like, I have seen Emmure so many times before playing with him, and it was always like, dude, this is just insane. Like, how heavy this is live. And the front of house guy is just killing it. Like, they sound insane. And then being put in the spot to have to reproduce that intensity and that sound was just like, shit, okay, let me really figure this out. I didn't want to come out, and not do it justice. So
not to mention you replaced 2 guitar players.
Right. And that's like, not even if they only had 1 guitar player, it still wouldn't have been like there's a vibe, there's a sound to that band that I personally believe a lot of bands have tried to copy, what they have done. And it was just kind of like, I think that every guitar player has their thing, their sound, their unique quality about them. And Emmure always had that. Like, tons of people try to do that sound, and it's like, yeah, you may pick up on some of the riffs, but you don't write like they wrote, so it's like you'll never have that thing. And it was kind of like, I'm just going to try to reproduce what they've done and then throw tastes of the things that I do naturally into it, with it, and just try to keep that same intensity. And maybe if I can put more into it, awesome. But that was really like where I was trying to go with it. It's really just keep it like it was, because I didn't want to get into it and change it. I wanted it to be able to keep moving, was the big thing. And I'll tell you this, it wasn't easy to do. It definitely wasn't. But, once I got to a comfortable spot with it, it was like, okay, this is doable.
And you're so right about the unique sound too. But like, when I really noticed it, especially, was I remember Josta's first solo album. There was a song on there that had this guitar part that was like the that high pitch thing. And I remember hearing it and thinking, I was like, is he trying to go for that Emmure sound, or like, And then I was like, I have to look at the credits of this song. And sure enough, the old guitar player, Jesse, wrote the song. And I'm like, okay, like that's how you know you have a signature sound. And I mean, it can be said for so many, like when you hear Jimi Hendrix, it's Jimi Hendrix. When you hear Stevie Ray Vaughan, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eddie Van Halen, and so on and so forth. Like a distinct tone is so valuable. Like there's a million other bands where you hear the guitar tone and it all sounds alike. You wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very interesting part about that whole thing. It's like, especially now when there's so many bands and everybody has access to the same things to be able to sound basically exactly like any other band, any other player, and it's like there is an underlying thing that every guitar player, like say myself and whoever other guitar player sitting right here, we both have the same guitars, same pickups, we're using the same amps, same cabs, whatever. And if we both play the same thing, they're still going to sound different.
Yep.
It's just because of people say it's because of our hands. Our hands make the instruments sound different. And so when I'll get like a lot of questions, like, how do you make this sound like this? And how do you do this? And I tell everybody the same thing. There's no tricks to anything I do. I try to pick quality amps or profiles or modules, like whatever it may be. And that's it. I treat it like it's an amp. I don't throw a million things in front of it or behind it. I just use it, tune it like it's an amp, and play it. And it just so happens that I guess my hands sound like this, And so that's like, I think that can help in so many different ways with every guitar player if they just let what you are producing be what it is. You're automatically going to sound like yourself. And nobody else can sound like that,
Yeah. I so like a year ago, I don't know if you saw of this. I know you're not in New York, so it wasn't where you were, but there was that at the Metropolitan Museum, they had this guitar exhibit, and it was like all these famous guitars. It was the Eddie Van Halen, like original Frankenstein guitar. It was, stuff played by James Hetfield, and you got to check it all out. And there was a room where they had videos of like Tom Morello talking about his tone and Eddie Van Halen talking about his tone. And so it's such an interesting thing, I think, developing that sound that's like a signature to you. How long did it take for you to make like the Joshua Travis guitar tone that you use today?
I mean, honestly, it's kind of weird because I know a lot of, I guess, seasoned guitar players. I feel like they generally have their sound, and whether it's just a specific amp or a specific device or something that they always use, they'll always generally have the same tone. And then they kind of just make tweaks on it here and there, change this EQ curve a little bit here or there or whatever. And for myself, dude, I rarely use the same tone. Like I'll use different pieces of gear from tour to tour. Like I'm just always chasing the sound that I have in my head that I have never figured out how to actually get, because it's the weirdest. It's like, to describe it, it would be, say you, okay, try to follow me here. You have your guitar, and next to your guitar, you have a chainsaw, okay? The lower you play on the neck, the slower speed the chainsaw is at. The higher you play, the faster the chainsaw is spinning. And that's what this sound is. Not like, don't necessarily think of it as the whine that a chainsaw makes. Think of it as the metal on metal inside of a chainsaw, and as you move up, it ramps up. That's like the sound that I have in my head. And how in the hell am I supposed to translate into a tone? I have no idea. But like, as far as my sound goes, it's like, man, almost anything that I use, as long as I can get the gain structure right, it always comes back to, yeah, this sounds right. It's like very easy for me to get a cool sound on almost anything. And it's like, it's almost like I don't really have the specific sound, if you will. It's more the techniques that I do, which every way that you play something, whether if you were to downstroke it, it sounds like this. If you were to upstroke it, it sounds like this. And so it's kind of like I can't help but utilize my techniques all the time. So it's like it just starts to sound like what I do. not necessarily what I would typically sound like, but more so what I do. So it's like I don't know if I necessarily have a tone sound, like a home sound there. It's just, excuse me, more like just like, yeah, it's just really what I do. And for whatever reason, it always sounds like this. Like so many people tell me, like, as soon as I hear something you do, I can tell it's you. And I'm thinking, how? I'm using a crate blue voodoo on this. Like how can I do that? And it's just like, I guess it has something to do with, my hands with the instrument. And that's kind of one thing I try to not change a whole lot of is the instrument that I'm playing. It's like, once I get comfortable with whatever guitar it may be, that kind of becomes like a home for me. So every time I pick it up, we know what we're about to do. The communication is just, it just never stops. So it's like I sometimes I can play a certain thing this way, and then I can play it again a completely different way, but it still all translates this almost the same. So it's like, it's just an interesting thing, man. Like I never really had like rules with really anything. It's like just try to achieve whatever the sound is that you're going for. And like,
does that make it a pain in the ass on tour though, that you have to change so many things to replicate what you once did?
I don't think it really is a pain like that, because it creates a, how would I put this? It's like, it creates a challenge. It's almost like, can you do that? Like, what if I only gave you this? Could you still pull it off? And I feel like 6 times out of 10, I could pull it off. It's just, if I have like the right components there, I can probably do it. Cause like I said, I keep things as simple as possible. Like I'm not one of these people that has like the most insane rig with all of these pedals and whatever going on. Dude, my setups could not be more bare bones. And I think that's where a lot of people, I guess, kind of start mutilating their sound, is by putting so many different things in these chains. And it's like you just kind of start losing the organicness of what it is that you were starting off with. And like, basically, I feel like if you're not starting off with something really good, are you really planning to come out with something great at the end of it? Because it's like, I'd rather start with something good and leave it alone than to start with trash and try to make it great.
I would think it's so hard to lose that organic component that you're saying in today's world because of technology. And I'm especially thinking of like, music was originally 4 or 5 guys in a garage jamming. And now like you guys in Emmure all live in different states, or several of you do. Like, so with this latest album, were you guys in a studio together, or was it just, hey, here's a guitar part, here's my vocals? How did it work?
I guess the writing process is a little different. Generally, I will write everything and then either send stuff to Frank, or he'll fly out here, or whatever the case may be. And then we'll sit together, go through everything, see what we really like together. And then, maybe restructure this, restructure that. And then that way, when we go to the studio, we were probably like somewhere between 15 to maybe 20 tracks, that we went there with. And then basically with the producer, we just sat there and broke it down all over again. Like, what do we feel is strong? What do we feel is not as strong? And what do we like? What do we not really like? Things like that. But it's generally just Frankie and we just put this stuff together. And really it's me trying to give him what he feels most comfortable to be over. So it's not just like, this is the sickest riff. It's more like, when you really break it down, if you were to look over a show and watch what people are singing in the crowd, I'm willing to bet you money you won't see very many people singing the riffs, So it was kind of like, we let guitars take a back seat and really try to really put the light onto the vocals. Like, I mean, he's always been like the real staple of that band. Like, they've always had their sound, but he is like the forefront of it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, let's just.
Well, it's the same thing we were talking about with guitar tone. When you hear Frankie scream, it's him immediately. Yeah. No one sounds like him.
Exactly. So it's like we wanted to put a lot of shine on that. So we really wrote the record for that, you know. So, but I mean, the process is always very simple. I start off with whatever ideas, and then we just kind of bounce it back and forth until we have it at a spot that we want it at. And I mean, I guess the only, dude, this is a kind of weird thing. Like, I remember being in bands a long time ago that all of us together, like you were saying, like just some people in a room or a garage or whatever, and you just sat and everybody bounced parts around, ideas around, until it just all turned into this thing. And it's like, holy shit, this is a song now. And now, like, fast forward from then to Danza, when I had to do Danza 3 and Danza 4, it's like, I guess I'm going to write all this stuff by myself, and then turn into Glass Cloud. And it's like, I guess I'm going to write all this stuff by myself. And then it came into it. I guess I'm going to write all this stuff by myself. You know, it's like, maybe, I don't know if it can't be just me, but any times that I ever had anybody else writing with me in any of these projects, I always like it more because it's not just me. Because I already know what I'm going to do. You know, it's like before the song's even written, it's like I already know where my head would say to go with this. And then when you have somebody else that can come in and offer things, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Because I definitely would not have done this, you know. So it's really enjoyable having that. But I'm just so used to what I do and the way that I write that it's just different, you know. So having a producer for like the last 2 Emmure records has been awesome. You know, somebody that can like take this material and start to twist it around. I mean, even in ways that I was like, whoa, like this is way cooler now. And it was like probably one of the first times I've had a producer do this. Is like beforehand, it was like I've worked with whatever engineers and they always take the vision that I have and they just turn it into the vision that they have, which was not the same thing at all.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I was very, very weird about going to a producer. I was like, no, I'm not into this. I'm not going to somebody to have them just tear apart whatever stuff it is I've been working on for however long. And we went into the studio with Drew Folk, and this was on Look at Yourself. And with some of the tracks that he heard, you could like see it in his eye. He was like, he has an idea. And me, I was kind of like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, so you had like a preconceived notion before
I mean,
of what was going to happen.
I figured he's probably going to take this and turn it into who knows what he's going to turn it into. Who knows? But rather than say anything or put off any bad vibes, I was like, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. And man, he took one of these tracks and he didn't really hardly add anything to it at all. What he did was he flipped it all around and he like restructured it all. So it was
Which song is this? Now I'm curious.
The name of this song is I think it's called Flag of the Beast.
Okay, yeah. Like, it's funny that I heard, you know, I listened to your interview with Doc Coyle, so I remember you saying like, I don't remember the song titles. You're like, well, I have a different name in my head, but yeah. And that's a great riff. I'm thinking of it in my head. They're like,
he wrote that. I didn't even write it.
Nice.
He wrote that. And you know what's even better?
I think we could start the show with that. That's such a great riff.
I'll tell you what's better about that little guitar lead, that's Drew playing that. When he tracked it, just tracking the idea. And I was like, that's perfect. He's like, yeah, but here, go ahead and retract this. I'm like, hell no, I'm not retracting that. That's the one.
And the fans don't know or care. I mean, like, I'm such a music nerd, so like I'm a diehard Kiss fan, right? And there's so much shit that like Paul Stanley didn't play on, Gene Simmons didn't play on, they didn't write, but if their faces are on the cover and it sounds like them, people are like, cool.
Yeah, that's Drew playing that, and like, dude, he took that song and restructured it, and it was so crazy to see how his mind did that, where it was like he just took all of these parts and he like made them communicate with each other. Like that's why the song flows the way that it does, because he made it flow like that. When I wrote the song, dude, it was just fucking heavy. It was just heavy, which was another thing that changed. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it was like, for whatever reason, everything that I write when I'm on my rig, it's just heavy as fuck for whatever reason. It's just how it is. It just comes out that way. I'm not sitting here like, let's be heavy. Like, no, that's not happening. That's just the way it comes out. But when we went to him and took all the material, he made it, I don't know how to put it. He made it make sense, where it was like all the riffs are the same, but they're like, everything has a home now, where it's like, this is the way that this flows. And it's not just like, this is just crazy heavy. Like Flag of the Beast was so heavy, and he twisted it, and it almost made it like, like the closest thing to a radio song that I could have done, you know, which was like, dude, I can't even, ever since then, it like opened my doors to producers ever since. Like when we went back to do Hindsight, I didn't even write the record like normal. I wrote it like, I'm taking all of this to Drew. So rather than sit here and write songs, I wrote what I think songs would need in them. You know, like I need these types of riffs. I need this type of feel. I need this type of vibe. I want this type of emotion. I need this type of speed, like things like that. And then I said, here, you put it together. How do you think it is? After watching how he did Flag of the Beast, it was just kind of like, okay, so this dude's a real deal then, huh? And so I guess it could also be like, you know, sometimes you hear those stories of artists or acts or bands working with certain producers, and it's just hell on earth. Like it just does not work. It does not click. And whenever we went in to do Look at Yourself, it was just vibe from the start. Like it just clicked so well. And I mean, Drew and Jeff, they will always say that working with me in the studio was so great because of how fast I can do whatever needs to be done. That's like, okay, I'm going to give you like, I'm going to take 10% for that. Okay, cool. I'll take the 10%. But these two, like they just really roped the whole thing together. Like they really, and when you have like that kind of energy in the room, it just makes things go good. It just does. You know, so there was never like any, okay, I guess I got to do this. It was always like, all right, bam, we're done. What's next? What do we want to do? You know,
I'm glad to hear that you guys were actually like organically in a studio together, because that I didn't know. And I think it's so common nowadays for someone to just send something over to someone else and it's put together. And, you know, even doing this podcast now, like I'm used to pretty much, I would say a good 13, 14 years of my career is being in studio with other people and like that organic thing and walking into the green room or the control room during commercial breaks and stuff. And like now it's all changed with all this Zoom stuff going on. I mean, we're on Squadcast, but yeah, it's all changed. And I do think a little bit of that, a little bit of that organic element of being in studio with the people is no longer there. It's missing. And yeah, I'm just glad to hear, because I've also seen interviews with you and Frankie, and you guys seem like you just click as personalities, as people, which is great.
I don't even know how to put it. Like some people you just are on it with, you know, like even if you don't see eye to eye on everything, it's like that's how it should be. Even if you don't see eye to eye on everything, you're still here, you know, together.
Yeah,
we're fighting the same fight. You know, and, you know, traveling the same path, you know, trying to get to destinations like unknown, you know what I mean? And like, we just have like, I remember when Frankie first hit me up about doing this, I wanted it to be the heaviest thing on planet Earth, because like at the end of like 2015, okay, when he hit me up about this. And I mean, I was so stoked about it. It's like, dude, we're going to make the heaviest shit on Earth. And he was like, no. It's like, I don't really want to make the heaviest shit on Earth. Cool stuff.
I mean, it's pretty fucking heavy.
It is.
Let's be honest.
I can't even imagine the things that I had in mind. I don't even know how it would have gone over. Like it would just would have been like, what? You know,
I'm just so glad though that it worked out the way it did, because I mentioned this on the show before, and I know he's pretty much an open book about things, so I'm not saying anything, that he wouldn't want revealed. But during that time, Frankie actually called me because I was working at Sirius XM, and he was like, "Hey, do you think there's anything going on? Because I don't know like what's happening for me in the future right now."
Yeah.
And I understand why. Like the entire band walked away from him, and there was this huge perception in like the online metal community of, it was just so funny to me, of Frankie being this like asshole and people can't get along with him. And even if you watched, I mentioned it to him on the interview we did, but like the DVD of the album before, what was it? I'm free, Eternal Enemies, right?
Yeah.
Like he was looked at as like the tyrant of the band, and you could tell that they were just not clicking as people. And the reason I bring this up is because it's so funny to me, because from day one, when I met him just as a fan, he's been a completely down to earth, personable guy. I never got that vibe from him. He's always been cool to anyone who's been a fan of the group. And I know that touring with someone, everything is going to get on your nerves about someone at some point, and it's just understandable. Like I'm the same with people I've worked with in radio. Like there's people I love, but there'll be some little thing they do that's going to get on your nerves. I get it. It's like being married to someone. I totally understand all that. But I think that these perceptions of him were really ridiculous. And I think some of it might even come from his lyrics, because his lyrics are very cocky, arrogant, but that's not who he is,
Right.
at least from my experience.
Right. Like, here's the whole thing about everything. All people have their opinions, man. They all do. And they're all going to say whatever they believe to be true. And so when they do, we as, the other party here have one or two options. You can either go back after this person or say, whatever you think, man. And that's basically where it all ends. It's like you can think whatever you want, you say whatever you want. And, like you could think I'm the nicest guy in the world, and you say something that gets under my skin and I reply to it and it's not a nice thing, all of a sudden I'm an asshole. But ultimately, I'm just a person. And, I have feelings and shed just like anybody else does, So it's kind of like, it's just really however you want to view it. If you want to think somebody's an asshole, you're gonna, So, and we just leave it at that. Like, think whatever you want.
And also in this world, everybody thinks because everyone is so accessible that you could reach everyone's social media and you could read articles that someone wrote on someone, they think they know that person.
Right.
And their perception is based off, someone that they've never even met, never even spoke to. Like I'll tell you a story on here that I don't think I've ever told on the podcast, but it's probably one of the coolest stories of my life. So I went, and it's at a venue that I've seen you play at. So I was about actually 17 at the time. I'm a huge Motley Crue fan. I have like Dr. Feelgood tattoo on my back. I went to go see Brides of Destruction, Nikki Sixx's side project at the time with Tracy Guns, because Motley Crue wasn't happening. I'm 34 years old. People say I look like I'm in my 20s. So like me at 17, I probably look like I was 12, But I was with my friend Jay, who was like 22 at the time. And he said, "Hey man, you want me to get you a beer while you're here, like at Starland?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. Am I gonna get kicked out or something?" And he's like, No, you're good, man. I know security here. You're gonna be fine." I take a sip of beer, and immediately security like grabs me by the shoulder, and they're like, "You're out of here, dude." They kicked out my name. And it was in the freezing cold winter, New Jersey, Sayreville, New Jersey. And I see a tour bus roll up, and I see Nikki Sixx get out. And I'm out there freezing, and I just said to Nikki Sixx, I was like, "Hey, man, just to let you know, I came out from Long Island, but I just got kicked out for drinking. But it's cool to meet you. Like, I love what you do." And he's like, "Hey, listen, I got to run for an interview, but I'm gonna see what I could do. I'll be back. Just chill out here for a little bit." And I ended up talking to some guy in the parking lot, like who worked for Starland Ballroom. And he said to me, like, kind of sarcastically, or like, he was like, "Man, you really think Nikki Sixx is going to get you back into the show?" And I was like, "No, but it's cool that I at least met him. I at least have like a story to tell for coming out here." Sure enough, dude, like 20 minutes later, Nikki Sixx comes out. He hands me like a VIP laminate. He goes, "Here you go, man. You're good to go." And I got to like go right up on the like near the stage and watch that night. I actually think his wife was right next to me. His wife at the time, Donna D'Arico. And like all these years later, working in radio, I got to see Nikki Sixx again at Sirius, like probably 3 years ago. And I told him the story again. I'm like, you probably don't remember this, but you know, when people say you're an asshole online, like I have your back. And he's like, that's awesome, man. Because like people don't hear those stories. It's always like the negative perception of people. And like my experiences with Frankie always been super cool. And the fact that he's always been like so accessible to people. Oh, like when I asked him to come on here, he's always like, oh yeah, sure enough. And like, I think that's why you guys have remained successful. But it's got to be just weird because I'm so glad to see you guys hooking up, and you had so many awesome things on the horizon. Like when I interviewed him, I'm like, wow, you have these festivals lined up with Slipknot, Korn. This is going to be amazing. And then everything stops.
Yeah. That was about to be the coolest shit we have done since we have been in the band. You know, we were like, oh my God, like, this is sick. And then never mind. You know, so it sucks, dude. It sucks. Like hopefully things will, I don't know. Hopefully things will become normal-ish. Hopefully. You know, like, and hopefully before too long, because, dude, I don't know how long we're even going to be able to be not doing this. You know, like that, it really messes with, like, not even just the flow of things, but it's like the mental aspect of it. You know, then you start wondering, like, should I even be doing this anymore? Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? You know, so it just gets weird, man. It can definitely really put a cloud over you pretty bad. Like, you know, so we just try to do what we can, you know, now in this whole with this climate. It's just trying to find how we can still be productive, you know, and having just put a record out, it's like you can't just go put out another record, you know, like
yeah.
Yes, but that doesn't make any sense, you know, like, so it's just trying to find ways to just be productive, you know. So I've been like trying to write my own stuff, put out my own stuff, and stay active.
And I should mention there, you know, you have a new not project, but new songs out with Andy Sizak of Monuments, and am I saying it right, Macari?
I honestly don't know how they pronounce it.
But you have, several new songs. One just came out, right?
Yeah, well, and Andy and I have been kind of like mulling over just how we don't know how many tracks we want to do. We just want to just do tracks. And yeah, like Andy Sizak is just, he's so good, super sick dude, sweetest dude. And he's a powerhouse of a vocalist. So it's kind of like, these are tracks that I could never see Emmure doing. It's not, they don't have like an Emmure sound, an Emmure vibe. And they just sound like me, you know, but having somebody like Andy really fronting it was just like, I mean, you just listen to it for yourself. Like, I mean, I think that the material is cool. Like, I always kind of bounce back and forth whether to have my stuff be instrumental or whether to have, you know, somebody on it or not. And I sent him a track because Andy and I wanted to work together for a really long time anyways. And so when I started, you know, coming up with this idea to just start randomly releasing stuff, I hit him up and tossed him a track. And when he sent it back to me, I was just like, what the fuck? You know, so it was like, this is sick. And, you know, we posted it, you know, some people were into it. We're like, cool. And I remember later on asking, I was like, would you want to do another track? And he was like, dude, send me as many tracks as you want. And I'm like,
I mean, everybody has all the time in the world, right? To work on material.
And that's going back to the whole trying to stay productive. It's like, it doesn't necessarily just have to be me pounding Emmure stuff constantly. It's just keep dialing in on your craft, you know, like in any way that you can. And it's, you know, again, it's more of a challenge now because I'm shifting my style. Granted, it is me going back to being more just organic me, not like writing with a certain element in mind. It was more so do whatever the fuck you want to do, which is very easy for anybody, and it's like, I just do whatever I want to do. All right, cool. Not, having like these kind of guidelines that are already preset for you. So that it was really cool, but it's like things like that to just stay productive, and challenging yourself to do different things. Like, it's always cool being able to be the producer in my own stuff, where it's like somebody like Andy, when he sends me his tracks back, now I get to go back to the song and redo the song to make his parts stand up even more, where it's like, if you're in a studio with a bunch of people and you're tracking like in a normal process, it's not always that easy to just turn around and say, okay, now I need to flip all these parts up to suit the vocals better. Like, it doesn't always work out that way when you're in a recording setting. So it just so happened when I'm doing this stuff myself, I can always go back and recall whatever, change whatever I want at any given time. So having him, toss these vocals into this, it's like, cool, now I can change up all these different hits to suit exactly what it is that he's doing. And it just makes it so much more impactful for me. But also pushing that whole producing side, which is super monumental for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's so cool. Are you finding other outlets to kind of lend your talents to? Because I could tell you, man, with this whole COVID thing, I do, voiceover, and I'm spending more of my day now. Actually, like, everything has been beneficial for me, as weird as it is. I'm doing like more audiobooks. I'm voicing more podcasts. I mean, I would think there's a ton of bands out there recording material who would love an appearance from you, or who would love for you to like do some type of production on their album. There's got to be like opportunity for that type of thing, I would think.
Yeah, there is. I've done 2 projects so far. And this may sound kind of weird, but it turns out that I really like when bands come to me to do any kind of work with them where they're not really trying to like utilize a name, like such and such did this. It's like when they don't even care about that at all. It's just so like refreshing to hear that, and they're more about, what is this material going to do? Where are we able to take this? I love that, because that just shows that they're not looking for like, I don't even know how to word it, it's just more they care about the project. They don't care about whose name they get to say had something to do with this. When they're like, we just thought that you might be the person to come to kind of elevate this to the next step. That's sick. And so I'm like pretty selective, And
it's huge because everything nowadays is about name dropping, and it's insane. I listen to, especially with the time we have, I listen to so many podcasts, but I listened to Edsel Dope and Tony Campos on Jamie Joster from Hatebreed's podcast, who I just mentioned. But yeah, Edsel was talking about being in LA. Like, everybody wants to be an actor and a musician. If you ask them, like, what are they up to? He said people will be like, well, my agent works with Tom Cruise and blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, but what about you? Like, what are you doing? And I think that is true. The same thing that you're saying with the name dropping. Yeah. Like, well, we have Joshua Travis on the album. We have an appearance from this guy, but at a certain point, it's like, well, what do you bring to the table?
Right. It's like, if you want to write it in there somewhere, I mean, that's cool. But if that's like your whole edge, is like, dude, we got Frankie Pomeri on this track, and it's like, all right. So to me, you already just shot yourself in the foot, because that sounds like, to me, this song isn't even going to take off till he's in the song. And when he's in there, all right, bam, that's probably where the shine is going to happen. It's like, I would rather my shit slam as soon as you hit play, and then all of a sudden, can you imagine that? What if people just put out banger ass tracks, and then nowhere Frankie's on the track? It's like, what?
That'd be cool. You guys have never been big on guest appearances. I don't think there's ever been actually maybe the first Emmure, and then there were some like guys smaller in the scene who I actually even personally know on the second album. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember all the album titles in my head now. The one with John Cena on the cover.
What is it? Maybe that's the
The Respect Issue, yeah. Had guys from the Pawn and from Bliss to Devastation, but and those were also like footnotes you wouldn't know. But on the recent albums, at least as far as I know, it's all you guys, and I mean, I know you guys could both probably find some big names to jump on a track, but that's never been your thing, I guess.
We talked about it for hindsight, dude. We had a crazy idea, but I guess at the end of it, like it just didn't make sense to do it. But it's not something that we are against. We just have to have. It's just got to be the right feature more than anything. Something that really makes sense to us, And that was why we didn't have it on hindsight. But we talked about it a lot. We talked about it a lot. We still talk about it a lot. Like I'd be willing to bet that it'll happen. Like
who are you thinking?
Dude, there's so many people. Some of them are rappers. It's like there's just, dude, it's a slew of them. There's because there's so many awesome artists out there, and so many awesome vocalists. Like, dude, I've thought about having like certain bass players. That it's like what you don't hear ever, bass solos.
Yeah,
ever,
unless it's like Primus,
right? But it's like,
and I've also heard like that Post Malone is like an Emmure fan. I so like imagine him. I did hear that in an interview. I think he knows Frankie. I could be totally off on this, but I'm pretty sure I've heard this somewhere. Well, I know he's a fan of like everything, but imagine him jumping on a song. Like,
jump on, you can play back. It's fine, dude. It's fine. Take over.
Like, that would be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Like something that would be super cool like that. Like something that's just like, whoa, what? Like that's what I would want. That's what I would want. But also like, this going back to that whole organicness where it's like you're not throwing somebody's name on it to be like, hey, I got la la la. That's not what it is. It's just like it's a track. And then all of a sudden you hear this voice that and you're like, what is this happening? Like, dude, that is organic.
Yeah, I could even give you an example of that. I'm not like the biggest fan of theirs, but I was skimming through the new Run the Jewels album, and I heard that song. It's something like Walking in the Snow or something. Anyway, like I heard the hook, and I'm like, I know this voice, and then I realized it's like because it doesn't say featuring. But being an old school 3-6 Mafia fan, I'm like, that's Gangsta Boo on the hook. That's so cool. Because it is cool to not, and also because I feel like unless you're a hip hop fan from like the late 90s, early 2000s, you wouldn't even know who that is.
Right.
It's such an obscure,
right?
Because Run the Jewels could probably get whoever they want on there, But to throw someone on there that like only this group of people is going to know, I thought was pretty cool to do.
Yep, that's awesome. Like, you just don't. I guess it's all different now, anyways, man. Like all the stuff that I grew up on, I still listen to today.
Same, yeah.
So it's like
we're all like everybody's like that, though.
Right.
Like I've heard that the stuff that you listen to when you're, I don't know, like 13 to 18, like that's always going to be your favorite. And I mean, even my dad, like, and I'm pointing here because my parents until I actually like move out of here. Not that I'm temporarily here for those listening. My house was sold. Not like living at my parents' house at 34. I've been here for like a week, but
live at my parents' house right now.
Yeah, no, my dad is a diehard music guy, and I grew up on so much of the stuff that he did, and because of him. But like his favorite stuff that he still listens to is like the Beach Boys, the Beatles, Allman Brothers Band, and I'm sure that was what he was into when he was like teenager. I think it's always going to be that way. That's always your favorite.
Hey, can we just point out real quick that the Beach Boys are awesome?
All right, dude, I love the Beach Boys. That's funny you say that. I'm a diehard Beach Boys fan.
There's some stuff there that's like, whoa.
Yeah, the production, the harmony.
Yeah, dude, there's some crazy shit going on with the Beach Boys that until like in dude. Okay, so being in Glass Cloud was very, oh man, I guess just an overall very eye-opening experience. Like two of the dudes in the band were Berkeley grads. And so they know their shit, long story short.
And I'm sure you're talking Berkeley School of Music, not UC Berkeley. Yeah.
And playing with them just opened my eyes and ears to like so many different things. And like, I don't know shit about theory. I don't. Like, I literally don't know shit. Not at all. And those dudes are like, they live and breathe it, So I would be doing things And my bass player Trav would be like, "Oh, you're doing this," and he would tell me exactly what it is I'm doing. And I'm looking at the guitar like, "What the fuck did he just say? I'm doing what?" And then he started showing me what I'm literally sitting here doing. He's like, "Yeah, this is where this is, and when you put your finger here, that makes this this chord, and la la la." And then they would just randomly, dude. It was so cool watching these two just like play together. It's like, they would not be doing anything, and Trev would be sitting here, hitting notes or whatever. And it's just, I'm just sitting here like, whatever, he's just over there making noise. And then all of a sudden, they're like playing a drum and bass groove, and it's like, what? Like, what is going on? And then when they're sitting here doing this, it was kind of like so freeing to be not in my element at all, but be able to like, going back to that producer side, like, it was like I could hear things happening in that. And it was so much more fun because I wasn't sitting here making all of that. Like, honestly, I couldn't have made that. I would have never even thought like what he's doing as a bass line. It was like, dude, you're doing like notes that don't even pretend go together. And then Chad, the drummer, would be playing like I don't know what you call it, like a swinging type of beat, but where the metronome is, he has a way to like not hit on the pulse. So it'll be like either just before or just after. And it gives it like this staggering feel. And dude, it's just like so sick playing with people that are like mind worlds ahead of what I understand. So it's like being forced to be able to play with sick people, so it's like so cool to be able to play like that. And it changed how I hear things like forever. And it's like one thing I noticed, like being kind of at the mercy of having to program majority of what it is that I write on my own. It kind of sucks because a lot of the things, not a lot, but some of the things that I hear, I can't program because I can't imagine how to make the program be wrong, but still be right. Like that's something that is just a complete humanizing thing. It's like you can make a feel out of something that is basically just not locked in. And that was one of the most enjoyable things with playing with them. Anytime we would play together, we would never be playing heavy stuff. Never. It was always like weird drum and bass group, eerie guitar, reverb, delay, crazy things. And like every time we played together, that's all we did. And it was almost so weird because it was kind of like when it was just the three of us playing, like doing this shit, it was always like, why are we playing all this heavy ass shit when clearly this is what we want to be playing? Like this is what it is. And then it was time for the show and it's like, oh, okay, distortion, right, go. It was so crazy, like playing with them like that. Very, very, very cool time. That was a really cool point in time.
That's awesome. I mean, I think all great musicians have influences from all over the place. That's why it's just so silly when I hear people that, I listen to metal, I don't listen to rap, or, right. It's stupid because there's so much great stuff out there to be discovered. Yeah. I'm still like my favorite time period, even though, I assume you're like around my age, right? I'm 34.
40.
Really? Oh, you look young, bro.
Good.
Because I was gonna say, like, the stuff I would really say I grew up on is like Limp Bizkit, Korn, all of that. But my favorite stuff is the '80s stuff, and it's like I'm still discovering more and more music from that era. There's so much to be discovered.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure that there is. I don't really go quite well. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of music we're talking about here. Me personally, I don't really listen to a lot of metal. Like, not really. Like, if I do, it's generally older because it's different. Like, it's not so much about the production, but although a lot of the stuff that I listen to that is older, they had insane recordings. Even if they were bad recordings, they were great recordings, but like now it's not the same, dude. It's like having, all these, digital studios where it's like, yeah, this stuff sounds great, but it doesn't sound like this. But there's no reason it doesn't sound like this because you weren't using that shit, and you were using this stuff, but it still sounds great, but it's never going to hit you like this stuff does. Like there's like circuits and knobs and shit in here, like not like plug into this interface and press record in Pro Tools. That's not what it was. There's a lot of different things going on, and there was somebody back there manning this thing, and twisting the things and pushing faders to make certain spots hit harder than others. Where you do it in Pro Tools, you just turn the fader up a little bit, turn it back down. It's like, no, dude, these guys had 64 channels that they're trying to have 2 or 3 people working on this thing at one time. Where it's just it's all people with their hands on things. Doing that, and those sounds, and drums in rooms, and microphones hanging from the ceilings, taped to the walls, just whatever it was, and that's, I don't know why, but that stuff stuck with me the most. And I'm
just, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I'm going to throw in here, and I'm moving away from the mic because this is what I'm currently reading, is Steven Tyler's autobiography.
Okay, cool.
And he has so much of that in there, man. He talks about, he's back in the saddle. He's I strapped I think it's these bells to his it was I don't know, it was something that made noise around his ankles, to mimic cowboy boots, walking into the studio.
Yeah.
And then he talks about the beginning of Sweet Emotion. He's that's like a salt packet that I'm shaking into the microphone. There's so much organic stuff like that, I think pre-Pro Tools, pre all the technology we have, you had to improvise with so much stuff. All right, we don't have this right now.
Yes.
We can't find maracas. Well, let's use something.
Use a salt packet, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that, man. When I'm trying to track my sounds, generally, in a studio scenario, I don't ever really get my way with guitars. It never happens. Unless I do it myself, it just doesn't happen. But I want to literally mic up whatever cabs, whatever, in a big room. But I want to put 2 mics, just a stereo set of mics, somewhere really far away from where the cabs are. So all you get is this ridiculous room sound. Okay, and if you were to take your direct mics and now start to bring in this crazy ass room sound of these guitars, can you imagine how big that's going to sound? Just think about it. So now I don't have to go into this and let me go find a reverb and try to fucking make a false room. It's no, dude, let's just have a real room. That. It's how easy that would be. Put a cab in a room, mic it up with 2 mics, 3 mics, 4 mics, however many you want, and then let's put a couple mics down there on the other end of this building. You did it right there. Cool, I could sit here and dial in program drums forever, and all of these samples, they sound incredible, and yeah. But if you put a drum set in a room and mic it up, it's never going to sound program drums are never going to sound like that. They cannot. They can't. This is the real deal. And it's somebody hitting a kick in a room with all these mics that just took it all in. And it's the sampling world, yeah, it still is that, but it's not that. And I can never really find the words to explain how that is, but that is just the truth. It just isn't. All these guitar modelers, dude, I run modelers today because they sound great. But when I turn on my amp and run through my cab, there is no denying that. But I mean, I'm not ever going to say they don't sound great because I do use them, but it's not that, again, that always going back to the organic side of it all. And I love that and miss that more than anything. If I could just have it like that all the time, dude, my drummer, Josh Miller, is insane. And he hasn't tracked drums on any of our projects. And it's do you even understand how much that sucks to have the sickest drummer sitting there like this?
Well, what's the reason for that?
Because there's either no budget to get into a place to track live drums, edit live drums, and then fly them back in, or there's no time to get into a place. There was no availability to get into the place. It's never anything on his behalf. He's just ready.
But it's not you guys, or Frankie being I like the sound of programmed drums, because there's always the people who prefer the programmed drums.
No, it was definitely never us being we just prefer this. The last time it ended up being, well, these sound fine. It wasn't we prefer this. It was just well, this sounds pretty good, which it did. It was like, dude, this is insane. Like, it sounds great, but I guess, it just kind of depends. Like, when you want to know, like, a great example is, let's talk about Norma Jean's first record. That record sounds like they were all in the same room and they used like 25 SM7 mics and just clipped them all. And it's just like brutal, just brutal. It's not like it sounds like sonically pleasing or something, no, it sounded insane. It was brutal, but it's like, if you were to take that and program that, it would have never sounded like that, So it's kind of like, what are you trying to achieve? And that goes into what was the vision here. And if the vision is changing somewhere near the end, well, all hope is lost for that vision, So it's like, you got to find somebody who's on the same page with you the whole way, like, from the start to the finish. And like, we have never tried to do anything like that. And I might be by myself in that. Like, that's just what I want. I want that sound. Because, dude, I know it's going to be monstrous. If we were just able to do anything, just even if it was like an EP like that, just to do it, like, it's going to sound ridiculous.
I'm sure it would, man. Everybody has these different styles of what they want to do. I read Bobby Rock's book, who's actually like the touring drummer for Lita Ford and a bunch of other people. He was in Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and the tracking for the drums on the Vinnie Vincent Invasion album sound like the most insane thing ever, because he talks about that Vinnie Vincent, who, I don't know if you know, the original, well, one of the guitarists from Kiss after Ace Frehley, he basically wanted a drum machine. He wanted a primitive programmed drums at the time in the 80s, and the label wanted real drums. And Bobby Rock is like an amazing drummer, but he had it so in his head that he wanted programmed drums that he basically would record Bobby Rock and then play a click track under him after it was done. And if it wasn't exactly on time with the click track, he'd be like, you got to record this again. And this is at the time of like tapes, and he wanted everything to be so precise that he was like, they're making us use a real drummer, but I want it to sound like programmed drums.
Right.
Which is so crazy, But I'll be honest, maybe it's because I'm not as musical as you guys. I never knew that the drums were programmed on the last two albums.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Because something that some people also may not know is I was a drummer first. So
I did not know.
Yeah, so basically everything starts from for me, it all starts from a drummer perspective. And it's like, I like to have things be locked. I don't necessarily need to be a show off. It's like, I want everything to stand tall. Not just the drums, just the guitar, just the vocals, just the bass. I want everything to be up there. So basically, I like to make things speak in unison. Like, you'll notice, like, a lot of the stuff I do, there's a lot of unison things happening. And I guess, like I say, the easiest way to break it down would be like, take man, there's so many different ways I can roll with this. It's like, just have it so everybody gets to be the biggest part of it all. Like, one thing you don't ever hear me do is leads. Like, when I was in Danza, I had to play like a lot of lead type of licks, and stuff like that. But lead guitar has never been my thing. Like, never, ever, ever. And so I like to riff. And it's like, if I can have riffing communicating between like multiple instruments, dude, that just seems like the ultimate, when everybody is just just rowing this machine. There's not like somebody up front like, I'll stand here while you row. Everybody's like got these oars and paddles, and we're just trudging. It's like, that's where I want everything to be at. And it's like, I know to get dynamic with things, you got to let things breathe. But when I let things breathe, it's like everything goes like this, right? And then I like to let things go like this. So it's like, and it just moves organically. Like in a movie, it goes like this, then it goes like this, and it goes like this, and it goes like that. Like, but
Yeah.
everything is communicating with everything, and that's really like monumental for me. Where it's like I don't really think like a guitar player. I like to think of it as like an orchestral thing. And like the same way that I use my guitars, like I generally I'm using 9 strings a lot of the time now, and I like to treat a guitar like that because to me that means that this instrument has 9 voices. Okay, so rather than taking it and tuning it like a normal or I guess normal guitar player would, they have their tunings like whatever. Like, because I don't tune in that. I just make up my own tunings, like because I don't care, and I do whatever I think sounds like I'm going for. And the funkiest thing about this tuning is that I have 2 strings that are tuned in the same note, but one of them is tuned slightly sharp, just slightly enough that when it hits, imagine it being 2 people playing the same note, right? Chances are they're never going to hit that note 100% perfectly with each other. So when they do that and they're not hitting it together, it starts going like this, and it becomes like a natural chorusing type of a thing. So now, since I have this sitting in this tuning, when I play this chord and it hits those 2 notes and they're latched together, it automatically creates this bigger thing happening in there on that note, which then makes that note shine hard.
It's so cool, man. You have such a unique style to what you do, and now that you're describing it explains why. It's just because no one else is doing what you're doing.
It's just weird. That's all it is. But it's just thinking about it like that, where it's like your bass register now. You have your bass register carry the melody. It's more like a droning thing. So it's like I have like a happening here, and then you have all these other things doing whatever they're doing, playing these like walking melodies and stuff. And now it's like that's still very orchestral when you really break it down. But now let's take it to the next level, and now we're going to become percussive with it, and still trying to latch these notes, but still trying to have these walking melodies, but still have these droning undertones. And then once that's all done, now we get to start venturing into the world of like a lead melody, not like a shred melody, but just a lead, something that sings a whole other part to this whole part already. And then we get to have vocals. It's just like just level all of this stuff, dude. And it's like that is just so much fun to be able to write in such I think it's probably a rather unorthodox method. Because you couldn't really pick up any of my guitars and play whatever because they're not tuned properly to do that, So on one hand, it kind of forces you to do your own thing, but then on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, shit, now I can't play Stairway to Heaven, because you can't. if you did, you'd have to be like tapping things that you should not be having to tap because this note is not here because these 2 strings are literally tuned in the same note. Now I have to figure out how to get to this note, like just all these weird things about it. So, but it makes it fun. Again, it makes it a challenge, or it's like, what can I do with this? So that's really how I try to go about everything. There's no limitations. It's just kind of like, what can you do with it? Can you make something cool with it? Oh yeah, show me.
That's awesome.
That's what I really like to go for.
Just jumping in here, I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation I had with the great Joshua Travis. I nerded out a little bit. We went into all different types of territory, as you hear, and I think it was just a very free-flowing conversation. With that, though, there are people that keep us going every week and allow us to do what we do. So it really means a lot that you guys check them out and support. We don't do Patreon. We don't do any of that stuff. So all that we ask is that you support our sponsors. And our sponsor for this show, just like almost every other show, is Fort Scott Munitions. Fort Scott is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you're going to receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as direct online. So go right now to fortscottmunitions.com and use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to our listeners. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and us right here, the Battleline podcast. And I should mention, Chris is currently doing a Battleline Tactical course, but he'll be back next episode. With that, let's get right back to the one and only Joshua Travis. So I'm wondering, are you guys thinking of doing any of these live streamed concerts or anything like that? Have you thought of, because it's weird with you guys being away, you were on the road constantly, and I think, and you could tell me if I'm correct, I think you guys were on like a little bit of a break from touring for a while. And I mean, when's the last time you even played a show?
I think that it has been roughly a year, maybe.
Is that the longest you've gone in your musical career not playing a show?
No, it is not. The longest I have gone would have been between Glass Cloud and entering Emmure. That would have been the longest, and I'm pretty sure that was years of playing no shows. But it was in a weird spot, like where Glass Cloud had stopped was when I had just written the next full length record that never came out, and it was just a fucker of a record. It was the darkest, heaviest stuff I have probably ever written, and so there was like this drive, that was happening during all this time. And then Frankie hits me up and we talk, he flies out, we start writing. And then it was just kind of like, once we had the record basically ready to go, then it was like, all right, we need to find like a full band and we need to start hitting the road. So then we had to learn all of like a lot of older, Emmure stuff to tour on. And, then you fast forward, and it was like, okay, we've toured on Look at Yourself for years now. So, like, maybe it's time to go, hit the can and get back in the studio. So that was what we did. And then it was like, okay, the record's done. So we were, getting ready to go out and start promoting it. And then it's like, no, you're not. So that was how this whole thing broke down. So, and, there's no telling how long this record's going to be out and if we will be able to support it in a, I guess, proper time frame, But
that's what I'm wondering. Would you ever do the live stream thing if, it's another year like this? Or
I mean, I won't say that we won't do it, but there's like costs that are going to go into that where it's like right now we are a band that is making nothing, so we would have to get everybody together for one. We'd have to rehearse whatever all the material is good that is going to happen. We have to have engineers. We have to find a place, rent the place.
Because you want it to sound good. Yeah,
of course. We wouldn't want to put out something that was lackluster, So it's kind of like if the opportunity was there and it made sense, I'm sure we would do it. But it's like, it's like pulling a nothing. Like there's really no way for us to afford to do that, so it's like, I'll do things just like making playthroughs of stuff. Like I basically made playthroughs of the entire new record, so it's like, here's this if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and that's on your Patreon, right? Is that where people should check that out?
Yeah. So we made that.
You could throw the plug out there of where people could find that. Or...
I don't even know what it is. I've never even seen it. All I do is make the.
I think if you just look up Emmure on Patreon, I think it's there. Yeah. I believe.
So that's what I do. I just make as much content as possible. Just try to stay productive, And so all that stuff is up there. I don't think it's all there right now. I think they release it every whatever duration of time. I don't know what it is. Like, I just say, I got another one for you. Put it up to you.
Yeah.
You're ready,
I mean, people right now, like the live streams are cool, and there's been some that have more production going into them than others. I can't say it's something I've completely followed. I'll be honest, I've not paid for a live stream. I mean, I've seen like there's been a bunch of bands who have done paid live streams. But I do think there is just a need for concerts right now, especially with everything going on in the world. I mean, I think we are just tied to the news and to social media all day, and we are just finding ways to be as divisive as possible. And when you go to a show like yours or any show that, you know, you guys listening are a fan of, like, you don't really care about the politics of the guy next to you or who they're voting for. And yeah, we do kind of need that. And I'm not telling people to like put their head in the sands and not be aware of what's going on and not stand for what they believe in. Like, all of that is perfectly important, but there has to be some type of balance, because I just think right now, it's all we're focused on. It's actually why I'm like really glad to do a podcast with Chris where it's not something we focus on, because it's everywhere you go. Yeah. You know, everybody thinks they're in the right too. You know, no one thinks they're fighting for the wrong cause. And I mean, we say it all the time, like these fellow Americans are like not your enemy just because they don't stand for exactly what you stand for. But, you know, if you're tied to your phone 24/7 or watching the news 24/7, you know, it's going to start to get in your head of,
absolutely.
You know, and I there's just no, even when you go out right now, there's just none of that same social camaraderie. You know, like the one place I've been going is I go to the gym. I do see people that I know that I've hung out with, but like, for example, this is weird, but like the sauna is not open. And the sauna is like the one place where I would see people work out and they would have heated discussions about whatever the fuck was going on in the world. But at the end of the day, everybody was cool, man. And it never got to the point of like physical violence. It was like, well, you could stand for whatever. And it was a very diverse environment, the gym that I was in, because it was like NYPD officers from all different, you know, racial backgrounds. And then there'd be other people in there that are, you know, very hard left on things. But there was like a mutual respect. And I really think because we don't have that like real life interaction, and it's very easy to be an asshole on a computer and say like, go fuck yourself, I hope you die. There's there's that mutual respect we've gone. We need to get back to like something that brings us together, whether it's concerts, whether it's sports, something.
Right. And I 1000% agree with you. I get why that's not really a thing right now. I do get it, because it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing. There's no, and because I'm not defending, I'm not like, we need to open up immediately. I'm not saying that either, but there is definitely a huge mental health, you know, aspect to what's going on right now. This is not how we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be tied to our phones. And I know it gives people an outlet like these social media sites, but all of it, I've certainly realized, I think everybody knows, I've talked about it on the show. I mean, it's all designed to be addictive. And I've talked about it with Frankie, like, dude, this thing is everything. This is our communication to the outside world. This is like, if I need a girl to hook up with, you need to go on some app and swipe right. Like, that's not the way we were created to be, man. It's
yeah, that's the shift, man. That's the shift. The same thing that music did. It's the shift. And it's like, I don't know if I'll say that it's definitely by a generation or something, but that's just what it does. It hits, and then it shifts, and then it hits, and then it shifts, you know. And it's like it happens with everything, dude, all the way down to food. Do you remember when the word vegan was not even a thing?
Of course. And I also remember, I don't know if you were in the same camp, you know, since you're actually slightly older, you might be even more so, but like, I went to McDonald's and Burger King like pretty much every day. And I don't even think our parents, I said this last episode, I don't even think our parents were aware it was that bad.
Right. That's like 100% what it is, dude. It's just like, it's the shift, and it just does it. It's like the way that things.
Is it good though? Like, I feel like we're on some level more knowledgeable than ever, but then there's also more disinformation than ever.
Yeah, it's all. I think it's always going to be like hand in hand. You know, when something else comes out that seems like it's super sick, but you don't know anything about it. You know, and some people it just takes on. Some people latch onto it. Some people are 1000% against it, and I think it's always going to be like that with no matter what it is. but I don't think that it's necessarily bad at all. Like, I mean, I think if we learn things from it, that I don't know how that can ever be bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. It doesn't necessarily mean that either, but I think the process of learning is always good. Like the more it's just food for thought,
Yeah, you know what it is? I think the pendulum needs to like have some balance at this point, man, because I actively try not to be a guy who wakes up and looks immediately at my phone and sees everything going wrong in the world. I've tried, and I can't say I do this every day, but I try to often like get up, go for a walk around the block, just take in nature, take in the birds and the sounds and the sights before I open up like the chaos of what's going on to the world, because it's like it's day and night, and when I was living at my apartment, I didn't have a TV in my room for that specific purpose. Like I don't want to, go to sleep hearing the news of what's going on, wake up hearing the news of what's going on. Like there's a bigger world to this that we're put here to be a part of, man. There's people are very disconnected from nature and from their fellow man, and I don't think that is good.
I'm very disconnected the other way around, where all the things in the news, I don't even have a source to the news unless it's like there's something on my phone. I don't know if it'll be there now, but there's like something on here. I don't know. I feel like it's just called news.
Yeah, on the iPhone.
Yeah, so that is about the only source that I'm ever going to get, unless like my parents tell me something. Like my mom is super connected, so she always tells me everything that she's seeing. But like I don't have like cable or whatever, and like your normal channels, so I never see anything. Never.
Yeah, I didn't until I was I'm back here, but at my apartment I didn't. I think that's the better way to be. I mean, Chris and I, because Chris could talk about it if he was on the show, but Chris's background, I mean, you guys listening know, but was involved in the attack on Benghazi, and like from that he was constantly in the news, and he says it on the show, like he was used to push like a certain political agenda, and he's like, I have my point of view, but he's like, it made me a very angry person. He's like, it was all that I was constantly like put on Fox News, put to be speak in front of this group, and yeah, at a certain point he actually deleted his Twitter, even with like I think hundreds of thousands of followers, and was just like, this is not good for me, I need to get away from this. And, he's still doing the podcast with me, of course. He's still doing his tactical courses, but he's like, I feel a lot happier. I'm spending time with my wife, spending time with my kids.
Yeah.
Like, it's where most of us should be.
Mm-hmm. I definitely can understand that. Like, I have all the social media stuff, but I'm not very active on really any of it. Like I'll post things every now and then to like promote this, like if it needs it or whatever. But other than that, I don't really have like a very big social presence, which some people would say that's not smart for somebody that does what I do. So, but at the same time, it's like,
but your mental health, I think, comes before all that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would agree. I don't generally get into shit with anybody about anything. Like, dude, I don't care. Like whatever it is you want to argue about, you can speak till you're blue in the face. I don't care, but that, I guess it's just a choice that I made, or it's like, I believe in, you got to focus your energy, and like what it is you're really trying to put into,
yes,
things like that, where,
and that is all, it's so true, man, that you say, because I'm connecting with what you're saying. It's all so energy draining. And when I see these people who that's their life, it's like, if you took that energy and spent it on doing what you do, or doing what any of us are, do, that's a passion, man, like you'd be so much further ahead. All of that stuff is complete time wasters and energy draining. And yeah, people are always like, I get asked all the time, I want to start a podcast. How do I do this? But I've met people for like a year or 2 years. They're telling me they want to start this idea and they never get it off the ground. Like at a certain point, you just got to go for it, man, and stop spending so much time on all this other stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I see it all the time. And I have so many friends, and I'm sure you do too, because all of us do, at jobs that they're completely miserable with. And, there's only so much you could tell someone if they don't have the drive to do something new with their life. But I just couldn't imagine being stuck doing something every day, day in, day out that I absolutely hate. I've been there temporarily in life, but I'll always try to find a way to get out of there.
You know what's funny about that? I think one thing that people will go back to is their job. You know, being stuck at whatever it is, like people call it the 9 to 5 or something like that. And like, I think maybe it's just me and being older now. Like, I think that it's just how you look at it, you know. And it's like, what are you doing that job for? You know, not really so much. I hate this. I mean, dude, you want me to be honest with you? I've never really been big about touring. Like, never. Like, I've never been a person that's like, I want to see the entire fucking world. Like, I never said that. I never once ever said that. It never happened. But I believe that in a lot of jobs, there's things about it that just come with the job, you know, and there's things that you have to do. And for me, that started off that was what touring was. It was just something that comes with the job. But
you like performing, I assume.
I do like performing. My favorite part about all of this is creating, not performing and not touring. Like, creating it is what it's all about. Like, because without that, there is none of that, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, that's always been like the strongest part of it all, is like making this thing live and breathe, you know, where it's like, I'm looking at this blank canvas, and then the next thing you know, it is look at yourself. You know, that whole operation was just like, damn, this was nothing. You know, and it's like, it's so easy to do something like that and just like, oh yeah, whatever, it's just made a record. It's like, okay, yeah, that is what you did. But you need to rewind the tape and go back to this, because this started at a dot, you know, when it was nothing. And you just made that, you know. Did that whole process is like, there's just not even words to describe that. It's when you seriously like take a step back from that and look at it, hold it in your hands, like, damn, all right, we did this. And now it turns into, now you got to go reproduce that. That doesn't worry me at all. Like, I wrote it. Of course I can reproduce it, but that's a whole other side of this. You know, where it was like, I was sitting in a chair or standing over there to try to be away from these mics so they don't hear me playing, as well as hearing the tone or whatever the case may be. It turned into, that has nothing to do with this. Now you need to go here on that stage with all these people now, and you need to make that shit sound like this, you know? And then it was like, okay, now I just get to look at that as a challenge. Like, can I do this? Yes. Okay, we can do this. Now, can you do it every single day in a different state under completely new conditions, new environments, new people, new crews, like new people at your shows? Some of these people may fucking hate you. You know, like, you never know.
Yeah, if you're on a festival, sure.
Yeah. It's like, and you know, things are gonna go wrong, things are gonna break. Dude, I break a lot of shit. I don't mean to sometimes, but it happens, and it's like, there it comes, challenge, fixed it, you know. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to have a tech with me that spots things before I do, and those people are forever my like guardian angels. Like, when they can spot a problem before I do, oh man, like, I love that. Most of the time, it would seem like it was like me looking over, like, gesture, like, something is wrong. And you know, when I have like a tech over there on ears and he can hear it's happening, and when I go to look at him, he's already back behind my rig trying to figure out what's going on. Like, those are like the guardian angels. And it's like, but those create these other levels of stress that are just like, oh, I hate this so much. All I want to do is just rip the stage and have everybody out here like having fun. Like, we're having fun together. You know, and it's so it took me a while before I was like, okay, touring is sick. You know, it definitely.
That's cool, man. And I'm glad you said that, because so much of what we talk about on the podcast is navigating through challenges, you know, finding the silver lining, and that's exactly what you're talking about. That's so cool to hear. I think, yeah, you know what? And since you're being brutally honest here, I have to ask this, because this is a question I always think of, and you know, you're being very real here, and I think a lot of people will give you the politically correct answer on this. whenever I see live bands, that constantly are playing, how many times have you played? I'm just trying to think of like one of the big songs on the first song on Speaker of the Dead, for example. I'm forgetting names of everything here.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, Children of Cybertron. So like, I always think when I see Metallica, right, like in my head, I'm like, could they possibly still enjoy playing Enter Sandman? Like, does this still turn them on? It's a new audience that they're playing this in front of, because or is it like for me, like eating cereal in the morning or something? Because they've done it a million times. Like, so are there songs where you're just like, this does nothing for me anymore? Do you still enjoy connecting with the audience playing it?
Here's the thing with that, because yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think the points when we're saying to each other, dude, I really don't want to fucking play this again. We are not playing it at that time. We're standing, we're in the green room or whatever. Like, what are we seriously playing tonight? And it's like, God, I don't want to play this. And then you get on stage because you said, all right, fine, fuck it, we're going to play it. And you get on stage and you start playing it, and it's like, all right, never mind. This is sick. Generally, it's like you just get tired of playing the same shit. Yes, yeah, you do. Until you're playing it. Like, I think that's really what happens. Like, I would never really get on a stage and start playing a song and be like, this is literally the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, there's too much energy in the room, where it's like, especially if it's a song that people like, just seeing them being into it puts you into it. Like, even if you like, yeah, dude, with Children of Cybertron, dude, I don't know if I've done a tour in Emmure that we have not played that on. I don't know.
But it's such a perfect song. Like, when you hear that song, you are in the zone. Like, yeah, it's such a great opening song.
Right. And so it's like, even if
I'll probably play a little bit of it under us, by the way, when I do compose. But for the audience who doesn't know these songs, like, even just because I know some of the audience, they're not into stuff as heavy as what you do. Yeah. But just those opening riffs, it's like, I don't know how you can't get it.
Right. Like, if you like heavy stuff, it's not likely that you won't like it.
Yeah.
But no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and like, there are some songs where I really did feel like that, but it's, man, I guess for me personally, even if it's something that I really am like, I'm kind of overplaying this song, like, I don't really care to play it on this tour or whatever the case may be. All these people that are there, whether there was 3 or 3 million, like, they paid to come see you. So whether I want to play this or not, I'm going to put on something for you. Like, I'm going to try to give you something, worth what you have done to be here. So you get, I guess when you get on stage, all that shit is gone.
Yeah, I get that.
It's not
I get that
anymore.
I mean, I've never done what you do, but I've done this, for example, for so many years. And there have been times where it was really dark periods in my life and no one would know it because I sound like I'm excited every day to get on mic, because I don't do a show that's like Howard Stern, where if he's miserable, he's going to tell you he's miserable. And he's very, I want people to, just be in the zone, enjoying whatever I'm talking about, feel inspired, even if I'm not feeling inspired at the
right.
So no, I do get that. You know what? One last thing I have to ask you, there's always like some type of military connection with what we do because of Chris's background and people we have on. And the one military connection I could think of in your career is Danza 4, right? Hold the Line, which was dedicated to service members. How did that come about?
We would like to take a minute to thank our family, friends, and all men and women serving in the United States Armed Forces. This song goes out to you.
Jesse was always like from a military family, and he's like very into that. I mean, I don't know if kept up with Jesse at all, like throughout the years, but like, he's an officer now, and like, if I'm not mistaken, he's on SWAT. Like, he's like, pretty heavy in this stuff, and like, that song, I don't exactly remember like how or when that was, what it turned into. Like, I mean, like, we would always pre-pro stuff, but for that one, I don't really recall when. It may have been in the studio when we were doing the track, but once it became that, it was it just got heavier and heavier, deeper and deeper, and into all of the clips and the stuff that I put in the track, like towards the end of it, and like that definitely struck people in certain ways. Not always good ones either.
I'll be a president who ends this war in Iraq and finally brings our troops home. We are one nation, and our time for change has come. I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan. After 18 months, our troops will begin to come home.
Watch out, let me get a shot. Wait. Hey, he's in that garage. Yeah, he's in there. We got friendlies on the road. Everybody, frag out!
It's just a very personal thing, and I was trying to give him what he was looking for, and then once it started, really fleshing out like what the track was, and it came down to the end of the song, it was just like, dude, we have to close this out. We have to close this out properly. And then, dude, that ending is heavy, dude. Like, that's a very, very, very serious thing. And it's like, it's easy to not understand, what they go through, not at all. And just hearing that kind of audio was just like chilling, and like some people that may listen to it and they're like, whatever. This is just whatever. And it's like, actually, no, that's not whatever. That's real. That's not like some scripted movie or whatever. Like, that's real audio from real shit happening. Like when dude says, keep shooting. Keep shooting. It's like, holy fuck. Like, that's very, very real. And like, it just made sense. I was like, what? I feel like that was what it needed to be. It did. It was what it was supposed to be. And that's where I was really trying to take that, from that whole thing. And Jesse's performance on it was like much different than a lot of the other tracks. Like, he had like different emotional takes in it, rather than just like, I'm screaming and pummeling your face. This one was like, gut wrenching screams. Not like the same normal ones. Like, there was just a lot more in that track. There was a lot more. Had a lot of those peaks and valleys. And like, if you are not afraid to, be open to the emotions, that's a heavy track. Yeah.
Have you ever had military service members say to you, like, hey, your music helped me on a deployment or anything like that?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. And I don't ever know what to say to them. Because it's just like, dude, that's like the least I could do. What do you mean? Like, where are you right now? Like, that's what I want to say. Like, don't thank me, thank you. Like, no, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm just here. I have this for you. I have this. Like, dude, it's invaluable. Like, there's no words. But yes, I've had that numerous times, and every time it's just like, wow, man, wow. And like thinking like, this is literally the shit that they turn on when shit's about to hit the fan. It's just like, I don't even have words for that. It makes your stomach feel weird. It's just like, damn, dude, this is like literal life and death situations here. And when you think like something that you have done or been a part of has gone all the way to that level, is like, what? Like, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. It's very crazy.
Yeah. It's well said, man. And I could kind of understand it too, because I'm from the same background as you, as in I have no background in that world, but I happened to meet a lot of guys from that background, which like led me to this point. And
Right.
people have said, hey, I've listened to podcasts that you've done, and like some people were like, you inspired me to like enlist. And I'm like, well, I haven't done anything. I just talk into a radio, and I don't encourage anybody to do anything unless it's, what they want to do. If this is what you want to do with your life, then cool, go for it, but I certainly wouldn't encourage anybody to put their life on the line and do something that I wasn't able to do or I wasn't even thinking to do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, this was my world. It was radio. But if that's what people are inspired to do, then that's awesome. But I'm from the same world as you, where it's I don't understand it because I haven't done what they've done. But
Right.
yeah, do you remember in in Fahrenheit 9/11 when they were playing the Bloodhound Gang? And Bloodhound Gang issued a statement that when they were asked about it, I always remember this, is that Jimmy Pop from Bloodhound Gang was like, hey, well, if something is going to be the soundtrack to war, he's like, thank God it's Bloodhound Gang and not Creed or something.
Oh my God, man. It's just such a crazy thing, dude. It's just, you think about it, it's crazy.
Oh, so one last thing before we head out that I should mention. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I have to tell you, I know you've definitely been on with him, Sean the Butcher from Sirius XM Liquid Metal.
I think I know that we've met, but I don't know if I've actually done like a thing with him. I can't really remember.
Because I could tell you, man, if you ever listen to Liquid Metal, like I haven't seen him in a while, but since I used to work there and I've hung out with him since, but it's been a long time. You are like just know when you listen to Liquid Metal, you are legit his favorite guitarist. Like he will tell me that. No bullshit. So if he says it to you, it's not like he's kissing your ass. Like I'll bring up Eddie Van Halen and he'll be like, with Joshua Travis.
Now that is sick. I cannot say I mean, dude, when anybody just like randomly hits me up and they're like, you've been like very very key in a lot of the things that I'm doing and very inspirational. For somebody like me, that is just, I don't know what the fuck I'm even doing, man. I'm just flying by the handles here, man. Like whatever it is whatever it is. And like when people, reach out to me and they tell me these things, it's just like, what? Are you being for real right now? Or are you fucking with me? Like you never really tell. And it's like, I know like so many like guitar, I'm going to call them gurus, because these players are like stupid good. I am not one of those players. Here's the thing. There's a difference between being humble and being honest. And I am honest. Like if I was this shit, bro, I'll tell you. What do you want from me? Like this is just what I do. I live and breathe. I'm the shit. Fuck off. I'm just being honest. Like, when these people put me in these categories with these players that are just fucking absurd, I'm sitting here like, what? What are you talking about? Are you listening to what these people are doing? I won't even let them play my guitars. No, don't touch it. No, you're not about to sit here and fucking on my shit. No, go play your own. But it's like so. Fuck, I don't know, man. It's just like even beyond overwhelming. I don't even know how to feel. It's just like they must think I'm somebody else. And it's like
I feel like shredding, guitar, in the forefront though is making a comeback. I have to say, with that band Era, right? Like that dude, I'm like, holy shit! It's cool to see it coming back, because there was a time, and I mean, I could really think of the one that pinpoints it for me is if you ever saw some kind of Monster, the Metallica documentary. Where, as we all know, on Saint Anger, there's no solos. And Kirk Hammett says, like, oh, that's kind of bullshit, man. Why are we pinpointing it to this time where it's not cool to have a solo? And it does show you at that time in the mid-2000s, it wasn't cool to have a guitar solo. So much so that Metallica, who was like, a lot of people would say one of the all-time great shredders, like, didn't even have a solo on that album. I know that's not what you do, but I think it's cool to see that coming back.
Yeah. Oh no, I love it. It just is like, it's cool to see so many good players. Like it's really cool, because I know that for a long time there, it was kind of like, all these fuckers suck. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop it. And then it was just kind of like, again, like I said before, the shift. And then the shift. And it's like, it was maximum. Like for me, the 90s, like, rule metal, period. Like that was just the heaviest shit on earth. It was in the 90s for sure. Why? I don't know. But everybody was really mad and really angry, and it showed in the material. It did. And then, you start fast forwarding again in the early 2000s, and then things started getting a little more locked in. Production started becoming a way bigger deal. And then videos, we started getting real big again. And then it was kind of like a shift. And then it was like hip hop really just took over everything, and then another shift happens. Bands start taking on these hip hop elements a little more. And then, it's just, so on and so forth. And then it's just kind of like, I don't know, within like the last 3 to 5 years, it's just been like shredders. There's like a few of them. And then there's like, they just started scattering all over the place. And now, like, I just did this thing with Jared Dines. He did a Gent 2020 thing, which is really funny. And dude, had I known that there was going to be like basically 15 shredders on here, I probably would have been like, no, I'm good. But that's what it was. He didn't tell me anything about anything. He just said, I'm doing a Gent thing, and do you want to be on it? I was like, sure. And I did it, and my riff was fairly simple. It's just playing with a meter, and just moving around it a little bit. And I see he puts out this video, and the freaking beginning of this thing is Jason fucking Richardson filleting. And I'm like, please tell me you did not put my video in this at all. Oh my God. And then that's how it started. And then it was just like player after player after player after player. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God. Like, it was just so insane, So that is just, it's so sick to see that there are so many shredders out there that are like doing it, like for real doing it. Like, I love that. Cause I mean, like I said, there was like a really long time where it was just kind of like, what is going on here? And it's like, it's really sick seeing that there are players out there that are just ridiculous. Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love just watching someone and it's like, damn, you're so sick. Like, I love that. That's just so cool. Somebody that takes just puts forth so much into their craft that it's like, you are undeniably great. Like, who doesn't love to see that? I love it. I love it. Especially like with being a guitarist, it's like so cool to see people that are just so disgusting. Like, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And you totally have your own unique style. We'll wrap things up here. I mean, we've gone nearly 2 hours. I really appreciate the time. It flew by. We went into all different territory. I love when we have these things where we have no real agenda and we get into just all different stuff and just a genuine discussion. I think that's what it's all about. So follow at the Joshua Travis on Instagram and Twitter, at Emmure Music on Twitter, at Emmure Cult on Instagram. Anything else? And of course, the new tracks with Andy Cizek, Cizek. But if you just look up Joshua Travis, I think it should come right up. Mm-hmm. But you can't buy physical copies of that, right? Or it's just on streaming?
It's just all digital. Like I said, I wasn't ever trying to like, this is my record. Like, this is never.
You know what? Buy it. I'll say for the audience, buy it on Amazon or Apple, because as we all know, streaming, you're getting a fraction of a penny there. Like, if you like the song,
0.123776489 of a cent. Yeah.
Insane. It's ridiculous, man. Especially with the touring situation, something needs to change.
Yeah.
But anything else and I should also mention Hindsight is available now. Emmure Hindsight, great album. It is a very to the point album. Every song is about 2 minutes long and it gets right into it. I love it, man. I love just about every song in there. It is like a perfect, if you're someone who likes heavy stuff at the gym, and, that's where I really think of it. If you want to like set your PR to say, listening to like I've Seen God, which I was last night. It is just, it's brutal, man. So you guys will dig it if that's what you're into. I know this audience is so diverse. So, but yeah, anything else that you want to mention before we get out of here? This has been great.
I mean, yeah, you really like nailed it all. Like, we went through everything, and just thank you for having me. It's been a great time.
Not a problem, man.
I've done interviews and this did not feel like one. You know,
Thanks, man. No, like I said, well, I listened to your interview with Doc Coyle, and I thought it was very organic. I've tried to get Doc Coyle on the podcast, and he like doesn't respond to my shit. You know what it is? I don't know if people see that I work with Chris Peranto, and they think I'm gonna like try to coax them into getting super political on here. And he is political, but like what we do is not Doc is, I'm saying, but what we do is not like a debate show. I'll have people come on here and express whatever the points they want, but I mean, I think there's way too much of that right now. We've said it on the show. Every show is now like a debate show and, just getting heated. I'd much rather have a discussion with people, whether I agree with them or not. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, I agree. And Doc's awesome, man. It was very much the same way. Like with him, it's not like an interview when we're just talking, but you have like a special way about yourself. Like you're
thank you, man.
Not like most interviewers, like you make things feel like, oh, we've been doing this forever.
But it's also you, man. I like people who are genuinely themselves. And I think some people are afraid to be. Some people come on here. It's happened on the show. I mean, people could probably listen back to certain episodes. I'm not going to say who, but it's like you go listen to episodes and this person had an agenda for what they were coming on for. And that was it. They couldn't openly just be themselves. They're not comfortable in the skin that they're in. And like, that's what makes a good interview, no matter who you are. But yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you again.
Well, there you have it. 2 full hours, pretty much on the dot with Joshua Travis. If you enjoyed the interview, let him know. It's at the Joshua Travis on Instagram, on Twitter. Really flew by for me. And pick up the new Emmure album, Hindsight. It's great. They did an awesome job with it. As I said, it's perfect gym music. So Chris will be back next episode, wrapping things up. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as direct online through fortscottmunitions.com. Go there now. Use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of our podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. If you have any emails or questions for us, battlelinepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @BattleLinePod, on Instagram @BattleLinePodcast. If you want to follow me on Twitter @IanScotto. And that about wraps things up. God bless you guys. Have a great week.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram @Battleline Podcast and on Twitter @Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoperanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.